I've been making videos for just about 6 months talking about all the random things that pique my interest. And I guess before we get into today's video, you should know one little tidbit about myself. I possibly have the most vivid memory about literally everything. Small, big, insignificant, life-altering, you name it. 9 times out of 10, I can recall it in great detail dating back to the age of 2 years old. Now, why am I telling you this? You may be wondering. Well, not too long ago, I was pondering on the date August 14th, 2019. I was working at Pier 1, RIP, as a backstock and truck worker, which entailed taking product off the truck, building furniture, taking out pounds of trash from opening said products, and to top it off, add a little bit of Georgia heat to it, and you had a good 8-hour shift. Good times. And music, huge part of working. Normally my MO was to pick out a few albums for my shift that day, and typically that made things go by faster for some reason. But on that day, August 14th, 2018, I decided to listen to an indie radio station on Spotify, playing some of my favorites: Boy Genius, Haley Hendrix, Soccer Mommy, Snail Mail, you name it. But it had its fair share of records I had never heard before, which always excites me. And one of those new records that I had not heard before comes with a very vivid detail that I remember for some reason that I will never forget. I finished dumping the biggest load of trash that I had probably done since I started working there, and as I'm walking back to the store in the scalding 95-degree heat, my ears were graced with what would become my song of the summer from one of my favorite bands to date, and it went a little something like this. La, 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 la. Alright guys, welcome back to another video, another Dev Talks. Today is one of my favorite bands of the last 2 years or so, Illuminati Hotties, showcasing the writing and engineering and producing skills of Sarah Tudson. Sarah has definitely become one of my favorite performers in the last year, which makes the COVID situation a little bit more angering, given I would absolutely die to see all of the songs on Free IH live, but COVID. Illuminati Hotties, based out of Los Angeles, California, and Sarah came up with the band Illuminati Hotties in 2017. As a fantastic engineer herself, I think she went to Berkeley, so she's pretty up there. As a producer engineer, I think she wanted to give songwriting a shot, and the way that she did that was to form Illuminati Hotties, which I think she blew out of the park. I don't know how often that happens where the engineer or, just in general behind the scenes position person comes to the forefront to try something that is very and much so not behind the scenes. And she absolutely murdered it with their debut, Kiss Your Frenemies, which if you stuck through the intro, you'd know that You're Better Than Ever was my introduction into Illuminati Hotties through a Spotify radio station, which was the best day of my life. August 14th will always be the best day of my life because I got so enthralled in Illuminati Hotties. I still regret not seeing them live when I had the chance, but it's okay. Man, Kiss Your Frenemies is one of my favorite albums of that year. 2018 was a very prominent year in indie, and I unfortunately wasn't enthralled in the scene like I wish I had been. I had slowly started learning about everybody like Phoebe Bridgers, Julian Baker, Wallows, Claro, all those people that are huge now. I was just starting to gather like, oh, there's a whole indie scene that I'm not even really aware of, and slowly started going through it. And the Illuminati Hotties was just another band that I had found off a whim of listening to Mutual Sounds. I think it was Lucy Dacus who was the song that preceded me into going into Illuminati Hotties catalog at the time, which was Kiss Your Frenemies Purely, and I think Keep Your Dog was a single that they had out, which that's an amazing song in itself. So Illuminati Hotties, just off the whim of being like so different. I think Sarah's writing is absolutely insane in that she's just purely Sarah. She's very much so herself and very presenting of that. And, being, the goofy, very satirical, but also, sometimes kind of sad, person that she could be, and that we all are. We go through a range of emotions, and she has chosen songwriting to express hers in many ways, and she's done a fantastic job of doing that so far in her tender punk way, which, by the way, was a huge selling point on Illuminati Hotties for me. Just the fact that she kind of coined the word tender punk, which I had no idea what that meant at first, and I was kind of like, what is that? But when you listen to Illuminati Hotties, which I highly suggest everybody go do, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you're a fan already. But just based on the fact that they were like, we're tender punk, and you listen to them, and it's like, this sounds like tender punk. It doesn't make sense at first, but then once you listen to a couple songs, you're like, yeah, this is tender punk, and it makes so much sense. I wish I could elaborate a little bit more, but I urge you just to go listen to the record. Which brings us to our video today. Kiss Your Frenemies, which is an amazing album, was released through record label Tiny Engines, and I'm assuming if you're here, you're very aware of the issues that have been going on with Tiny Engines in the past 2 years or so, which might unravel itself as an issue for probably much longer. But as far as we know, in the last 2 years, a couple and probably way more bands and acts haven't been receiving their money. There are things that they were contractually obligated to receive. I think the bow on that got unraveled from band Adult Mom, who released a Twitter thread on a numerous amount of things that were going wrong with their contract with Tiny Engines, including masters not being given when they're contractually obligated to be, and a lot of acts were owed an enormous amount of money. To this day, Illuminati Hotties had an interesting decision to make. So Twitter went kind of crazy with it, went in on the two guys that are behind Tiny Engines, which, a breach of contract, unprofessionalism in general. When that kind of stuff comes out, the culprit is going to receive hell, especially for a band like Adult Mom. A lot of people absolutely love Adult Mom, which go check out them. It's just like, it was an insane thunderstorm. The attention from that Twitter thread quickly shifted to everybody else just being curious, wondering what was next for all of these acts that were tied to Tiny Engines, which included Illuminati Hotties. And they ended up having one of the more interesting ways of getting out of their contract, which they just bought out. Sarah released the information in an interview with Stereo Gum, making it clear that they had come up with an exit agreement that allowed her to buy out her Tiny Engines contract with a cash settlement and a payment of royalties on a future project. And that would be the project that we are talking about today, which is Free IH. This is not the one you've been waiting for, which ironically it kind of was, because this album is absolutely amazing. I think I ranked this my number one album of the year, if not number two. I'm kind of slipping on that. You can go watch the video on that. I put a little link for it at the top. So this album is absolutely amazing. But myself, as a very uninvolved fan, I think I just was not aware of what was going on. The Tiny Engines situation was unbeknownst to me, and I was just going in as an Illuminati Hotties fan into this album being like, this is going to be insane, because I had been waiting for just over 2 years just to hear Sarah sing to me again. I actually have another vivid memory of being in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru listening to Free Peoples and being like, what in the hell? This is so punk. I was so excited because, as you're going through this record, you're hearing Sarah and Illuminati Hotties try all of these really heavier sounds, but also staying really true to themselves. I think Frequent Letdown is very much so tender punk and very vintage Illuminati Hotties, which I hate saying that, but it's just their MO. And you go to Free Peoples and you're like, this is heavy as hell. And they're trying some Afropunk kind of rock and really groovy lines, and then they go really absurd with songs like Content Bedtime. It was just absolutely amazing to listen to and hear all of these amazing songs. And I got to probably, I think, undisputedly my favorite song, which is Superiority Complex, which it took me quite a while to understand because, you know, I had no idea what was going on. But hearing these lyrics and hearing what she's talking about, I was like, is there something I'm missing? So doing a little bit of research that I did, I quickly found out, saw a bunch of interviews, saw a lot of things about what was going on, and it made the song just that much more better for me. I was just like, holy shit. She really just hammerhead went in on that situation, wrote what was on her heart, which I think is absolutely the most beautiful part about music. Just expression, getting that feeling out of, you know, we were kind of fucked over. We're dealing with a stressful situation, and, you know, we put this short album out, and Sarah said it better herself about the situation in writing about it.
You know, I think that I've probably made some folks not too happy in the way that I said some of those things, but I also think that it was real and it was true for me in a lot of ways, and like the only way I could get it out, you know, I'm not very good at like expressing anger, but I am really good at expressing humor and irony, I think, and sort of like you know, like, of course it's happening like this attitude. And so like that was really easy for me to play with, and I think it allows me to get away with saying a few more pointed things if it really is coming under the guise of joking around a little bit.
That much of a crunch of, like, you know, she was producing this second album, which I guess I wasn't even really aware of this, the second album that they were creating, which I read that is still in motion and will be released whenever they release that. But for them to, like, you know, turn it around and just come up with this album just to accommodate for the exit agreement that they had just formed with Tiny Engines is like, damn, that must have been a stressful couple months of just trying to do it, like figure out a turnaround, but also remaining so creative. And, you know, she talks about how much fun she had making this record, but, you know, the circumstances of which it came to be was probably really hard on Sarah. And Sarah had a ton of things going on, including the loss of her mother. And I just, you know, having so many things going on at the same time, which you have to factor in that, you know, COVID-19 was a thing, and, you know, lockdown was a thing, and that's already hard in itself. So I guess this portion of the video is a very much so high praise for Sarah and Illuminati Hotties in doing something absolutely incredible with this record, and you know, persevering through all the BS that is life, you know, and it's just awesome. So I think that although that situation is absolutely, it's not convenient, it's not cool, it sucks, and, you know, I'm just really feeling for all of those bands that were involved in the Tiny Engines unprofessional scandal. I'm going to call it that because it very much so is unprofessional on their part to not, like, you know, go by their contracts that they put out on the table, which, you know, these are a lot of young bands, a lot of young people who are just trying to get their music out, trying to get their voices heard in this industry where, you know, there's so many people that aren't heard at all. And, you know, I just feel for them. And Illuminati Hotties doing this is a huge step in their career. I think that this is pivotal in them going forward. I think they're just about to get that much more bigger because of it, because this got a lot of praise this year, as did their first record. You know, they're good. Like, they have 2 good hits. Like, all rippers, no skippers. I promise you, you will not have a skip. And I didn't skip once. I don't think I've ever skipped a Illuminati Hottie song at all. And that statement reigns supremely high with Superiority Complex. And I want to break it down with y'all. So here we go. Let's break down Superiority Complex by Illuminati Hotties. I love Sarah when she's in character. She's such a good performer. Let's break down that part. All right, so this is the part I was talking about, which throughout the record, it's mentioned, little tidbits about the Tiny Engines situation, but this was the most direct mention of that situation. So the lyric goes, first I made Frenemies, which Kiss Your Frenemies was the first record that they put out with Tiny Engines, made a lot of frenemies. Now I owe him 7 stacks and won't even get the Circle P. So pretty please, ain't it easy when you're eating from the fists of all the young guns who hardly ever thought they could be? Damn. So for most that don't know, Tiny Engines was real. I guess I kind of explained it with the whole adult mom situation, but Tiny Engines was kind of banking on getting those unheard voices, those really talented young bands in the scene, a chance to get really major distribution, major things going on, and they really played that role as a record label for a while. And it came out with the whole adult mom Twitter thread of being mistreated, not paid, a lot of wrongdoings business wise, and you could tell that with this lyric, ain't it easy when you're eating from the fist of all the young guns? Tiny Engines was banking off all of these really young talents. And, when you're that young, or, you're just a starving musician and you're really getting into the business for the first time and trying something out with a label, you have some level of trust and some level of, gullibility, I guess, when you're just well, I'm going to sign this and I'm going to get the thing that I've always wanted, which is just major distribution, the ability to get my music out. And Tiny Engines, from what it seems really took advantage of a lot of those bands. And Illuminati Hotties, just found themselves in a situation where they had to do what they had to do. Sarah did what she felt was the best way of getting out of that situation, and honestly it was buying out the contract. And from the outside looking in, it seems like her way of handling that situation was the correct way of doing that. And all you can do is just hope for the best for Illuminati Hotties going forward, and any of those bands from Tiny Engines who went through what they went through, whether that was being wronged in a morality way or being wronged in a financial way. And in some, both. It seems like Adult Mom went through both of those and some. So, just big prayers, big thoughts with all of those bands and all of those acts. And I think most of them are starting to recover from that little 2-year situation, maybe a little bit more longer. They're starting to recover and find other ways, other avenues to get their music out, and good for them. But man, when I first heard this, because in July when the album came out, or mixtape I suppose, when it came out, I had little to no knowledge of what was going on with the Tiny Engine situation. I had no idea about it. Actually, I heard this song and was like, oh, this is kind of what they've been talking about the whole time. And in the radio skit segment, she's talking about keep all your masters, or the little joke she made about that. You know, it's just like, Jesus, this is such a good way of doing it, because like mentioned earlier in the video with the audio clip from her interview, she was just like, I could have done the major fuck you and just put out a lot of like weird sounds as a bit major, like, you know, this is what you get for, you know, screwing us over. But she really wanted to make sure that she had fun with this record. And I guess finally Superiority Complex ended up being that one final, you know, fuck you, which all in all, that is absolutely warranted. You know, Tiny Engines, they got themselves in some major trouble here, and you know, you just can't do that to your talent. So always going to absolutely love this verse. I think Sarah is an absolute badass for this. It's just like one of those, like, that's a moment. That's a significant moment in her career, I think. Super excited to get that album that we were supposed to get eventually. And you know, I think we're still getting that record. I think I read that correctly. So, you know, when we get it, we get it. But to have this, I feel like, is a very prominent move in the band's moves going forward. So shout out to them. Back into it. Hell yeah, Tuds. She's so awesome, man. I love her. All right, y'all. That is Illuminati Hotties. This, like I said in the intro, has been one of my favorite bands of the last 2 years or so. And I just can't wait to see what's next for them. This was a road bump, if anything. I think this was probably a lot of fun, but a lot of, you know, added stress before having fun with it. But nonetheless, she made an incredible record in such a short amount of time. And big ups to the Illuminati Hottie band. Y'all are absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you for watching this video. There are more episodes of Dev Talks where I talk about plenty of things. I've done a lyrical breakdown of Mythological Beauty by Big Thief, which is an amazing song. I've done a video on XXXTentacion's Passionist career. I've done, what else have I done? A video on Daria. I've done a lot of things, and you can all check that out. You can check out the Collective podcast. There's playlists for all of these things. You have endless amount of content to get to if you want to. So thank you. We'll see you in the next video. Peace. Season.